the reason of why the name change, I feel like this is where kind of quote unquote superpower shines, is where direct response meets branding. So kind of in between, because a lot of people, for some reason, the content is so split in between. It's almost like a war. It's either you either like and do direct response, or you try to do and build a brand. And I feel like my superpower is right where these two worlds meet.
Brand up, hey, let me tell you the truth. It's not about who you know, but who knows you. Brand up, it's your story, you can rewrite it if you so choose. It's your life, you decide those moves. Brand up, you wanna talk about getting the bag. He built a 7-figure brand from scratch. Brand up, it's the Brand Up podcast, but you already know. Enough talking, bro, let's start this show. Brand up.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the first official episode of the Brand Up podcast. And the reason that I say the first one is actually, it's not necessarily a new show, and we'll get into the questions in just a moment here. But I wanted to kind of make this formal, official thing where I welcome everyone to the kind of the new vibe, the new show, the new topics, and kind of explain what's going to happen over the next couple episodes, and also moving forward, because we do have, when I say we, it's pretty much me, because I host the show, the podcast, but also the team that edits all the episodes. So let's actually jump right into, I think we have 6 or 7 questions that I need to address to make sure all of you guys know what's going on with this show, with this podcast. So let's dive right into the first question.
It is a new show or a rebrand?
So this is the best question ever. I was debating between these two, but it's technically a rebrand. So the previous podcast was called Momentum. This one is the Brand Up podcast. So from a technical standpoint, it's a rebrand because I do not take it off Apple and Spotify and all the rest. It's actually rebranding the entire podcast. Now, with that being said, it is a new approach to the show. So all the previous reviews that were on, they're still there. They will still show up. So you don't need to necessarily resubscribe. As you know, depending which platform you consume the podcast on, some of them require you to download the episodes in order to be able to get them on. So short answer is definitely a rebrand, but it's a new approach, and I'll dive into why in just a moment here.
Brand up.
Why the name change?
Yeah, so Momentum, I felt like I really liked the way that it sounded. I liked the fact that I could take momentum to a whole new industry at any point in time, because you need momentum in your life, you need momentum in your business, you need momentum in your brand, you need momentum in your fitness journey, and all of these things. However, I felt like it became a little too broad. So it took me a little bit to kind of come up with the show. And also, this is a little bit of a secret, but depending on what point in time you listen to the episode, it's a book with the same name. It's coming up. It's actually already written. I'm just going to the last set of edits this week, and this is the 3rd week of January. And then I would expect in the next 30 days to be launched online. So the reason of why the name change, I feel like this is where my kind of quote unquote superpower shines, is where direct response meets branding. So kind of in between, because a lot of people, for some reason, the content is so split in between. It's almost like a war. It's either you either like and do direct response, or you try to do and build a brand. And I feel like my superpower is right where these two worlds meet.
Brand up.
What's different now versus old podcast?
So again, the old podcast, it had a similar vibe, but it was going towards a much broader approach. I feel like a lot of the episodes that are coming up now are going to be so focused, so specific towards this whole world of where personal branding or business branding, for that nature, meets direct response. So somewhere in the middle. So most of the new episodes coming up are specifically focused on how to get more visibility, how to get more eyeballs on your brand, how to get more potential visitors on your website, and how to make sure that you can scale your brand at the same time where you are monetizing it. So it's going to be more specific now than it was before.
Brand up.
Why you stop producing content on the podcast?
So it was for this main reason. I felt like at some point in time, I can't remember exactly what was the last episode, but it's been probably a year and a half, not more. I felt like I didn't have a clear direction of where I wanted the podcast to go. So because of that, I wasn't really excited anymore to produce content. And actually, I've had a couple of subscribers actually emailing me and DM me on Instagram asking why I stopped producing content, because the episodes, especially on the podcast, because the podcast was not necessarily on YouTube as well. It was mainly just the audio version. And it was completely different content that you could listen to my podcast versus what you could see on my YouTube channel. So, but because of the reason that I didn't have necessarily an exact plan of how I envisioned the podcast content to go towards. So it became one of those things that, all right, I don't know if I'm serving the audience at the highest level that I could. So because of that, I'm just going to take a break. So that break became a little bit longer. But then from there, I'm actually happy that I did it, because now I realized where I fit the best, where my content fits the best. And now I'm going to stick with that topic for quite a while. And it was similar before, but it didn't have this, I guess, quote unquote, tag of, kind of where these two worlds kind of meet, personal branding versus direct response. So I feel like that's my superpower again. That's the reason that I stopped, pretty much. At first I paused, and then that pause just became a bigger gap. But back on track now, and I'm actually super excited for the new show coming up.
What can people expect moving forward?
Perfect question. A lot more solo content. So I would still interview experts that have something to do with these two worlds, either direct response or personal branding as a whole. But people will be able to listen a lot more specific, shorter solo episodes. So, for example, once a week, I'll be posting solo episodes with a specific goal in mind. So, for example, next week I'll share some behind the scenes on some of the campaigns that worked for your business, pretty much for the Beauty Academy, and then every week I'll bring up but a topic that's so specific, and it has to do with a task that people can. This was one of my favorite things on the previous episodes. Try to give people a task that they can do right at the end of the episode, and then one task that they can do after 3-4 months. So something that they can implement for long term and also short term. So people can expect a lot more episodes moving forward that have a specific topic, and it's direct, like it's super targeted. And also it has to do with the questions that people ask. And by the way, now you can actually submit questions. So if you go to thebrandupshow.com, you'll be able to click, it's a button in there that allows you to record the question. So we'll publish the question here on the podcast, and then we'll answer to you on the episode coming up, depending, how many questions we get at any given time.
Brand up.
Where can people find it?
So people that were previously subscribed to Momentum, not both, but on all audio podcasts from Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and everything in between. But now we also have a website. If you go to thebrandupshow.com, again, you can submit the question there, but you can also find the guests. You can also find the show notes. You can find all kinds of different things that we put up for the show, and specifically for the listeners. Because even if I stopped producing for almost 2 years, I see every week the charts, and I see that people are still listening to the previous episodes. So that, of course, tells me that the audience liked the previous episodes. Hopefully, I brought a lot of value to them, and because of that, now we did the website too, so people can actually have their questions answered, and on top of that, find all the various websites that we list in the show notes with all the goodies and all the cheat sheets. And pretty much every episode will come with some specific tasks and little workbooks that people can implement in their brand, in their business. So yeah, I'm super excited for it. And if you guys want to find out more, again, you can go to thebrandupshow.com and you'll find all the information there. Thanks for listening, guys. And don't forget the easiest way to support the show to make sure a lot more people can find it is if you're listening on Apple Podcast, right on the right top corner, if you're on a mobile device, and probably even if you're listening on a desktop or so, you have the little plus. Apple changed in the last couple months the way that you subscribe to shows. So now you pretty much have to kind of follow the show. So it's a little plus button on the right top corner. As long as you click that, all the episodes will download to your device. And then that will just help push the show so more people can find it. And if you like it, please rate and review it so we can bring you more episodes. And hopefully we'll get you guys on the podcast at some point in time, because I do want to hear from my listeners, because you guys still supported me during the time that I have not posted any episode. So I want to give back to the community. So again, guys, thanks a lot for being here. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.
Brand up.